Hey, welcome back to the podcast. My name is Lashay Johnson, and if this is your first time clicking that button, welcome. If this is not your first time, welcome back. Now, here's the thing. Every single time I post something, I see you all peeking in. I want to invite you. Why don't you subscribe? Put your notifications on. Make sure you're liking the content and share it with somebody else. Why would you want to keep all the goodness to yourself? So tonight, I am so thrilled because anyone who's been following me, you know that I'm on a 90-day challenge. I've been focusing on my finances, my health, and my relationships. And along the way, I've selected a few people. Let me say that again, because I'm very selective. I don't talk to nobody that I don't want to talk to or I don't believe has something to say. So tonight I have the Jones. Oh my God, the Richardsons. Help me out. Did you just hear me? Sherry, Joe, Richardson on the podcast with me. My goodness, tonight we're going to be talking about what it's like to get ready for 2025. And I just want to hear where they're headed because they just seem like the kind of couple that's not waiting until the clock strikes midnight. They're pretty intentional. I think they're focused. I think they know where they're headed. And you're going to lean in. You're going to want to buckle up and listen to what they have to say. So, but before we do, anyone who's ever heard the podcast, you know I like to do a little bit of warm up. So we're going to do a fast round of getting to know them. Are y'all ready?
We're ready.
Okay,
Ready.
We're
come on.
ready.
Let's
Come
roll.
on. Welcome. I'm so glad y'all here. Okay. All right, Joe and Sherry. Here's some of the icebreaker questions that I have for you. Do you prefer the mountains or the beach?
Oh,
Beach.
definitely the beach.
Oh, both of
Definitely the
you?
beach.
Okay, come on, tell me why.
Hmm. It's relaxing. Water is that calm, you know?
Okay.
And we do that's our hangout.
That's what we do. That's
Okay.
what we do.
Mhm.
Now,
Just to
I'm gonna tell you, I got a little bit of a split right now because I went to the mountains back in October and literally, like, it was so beautiful to be in the scenery. And I'm like,
Mm,
I don't know. I'm kind of split a little bit because I can go to the beach. I don't like the beach water, but I like the environment. I like the sand. I like to be able to
right.
lay out. I definitely like to get on that boardwalk because the food is just tasty. So, yeah. Okay. All right. Let's switch it up a
Tasty and
little.
expensive. But wait a minute, I gotta back up for a second, Shay, because mountains have snakes.
Ooh,
and we don't do snakes.
you don't do snakes. Okay. Now mountains have bears too.
They do have
I'll
bears.
fight a bear.
Hmm
You'll fight Joe,
I'll
I
fight a
know
bear.
you will fight a bear. I love it. So we were in Speculator, New York, which is I think we flew into Albany and then the ride was like an hour and it was at this campsite. It was really, really beautiful. But I
Okay.
remember at night we were moving around on the grounds. I was like, yo, it's dark out here. I can't see nothing. But during the day, it was
Mm-mm.
absolutely beautiful. And I think it was something about being in nature in that way that
Yes.
just felt very
Yes.
serene. Like I could hear a little bit clearer. I could do the same thing because I think water, metaphorically, spirit, all the things. And I just came back from a birthday trip and I was in the islands and the water did the same thing with the person that I was traveling with. So I totally get it. I
Mhm.
get it. All right, let's switch real quick. Are you an introvert or an extrovert?
Ambi. I'm an Ambi.
Dog on it. I tell you, hands down, Joe, every single time I ask this question, people are like Ambi. It's
Mhm.
like, okay, so Sherry, tell me a little bit of why you feel like you're an ambivert.
Because I can flow in any, we say this all the time. I'm like, babe, we flow in any kind of environment. But
Hmm.
there are times when primarily I love um being on my own. I am productive by myself
Yeah,
when I can lock in and just really, do it and flow the way I need to. But
yeah,
then I'm social as well. And when I want that, I want that. When I
yeah,
want to be around people and hang and do different things. So I flow in both.
yeah, yeah. I am a natural introvert,
Hmm
naturally, but for sure, since I've discovered what an ambivert is, I'm like, okay,
hmm
that's probably more me. So
Right.
I don't know, Joe, where are you at? Where you stand?
I'm actually with both as well.
Hmm.
For a large part of my life, I was an introvert, but I've come up out of that shell, and
Yeah,
I've seen the blessings.
Right.
I've really seen the blessing of that. And one thing I want to say is when I was an introvert, as my life went on and I had conversations with God in a particular way about a particular thing, he really showed me like the way I carried myself early on because I was very private. I
Mhm.
didn't let
Mhm.
people get close to me. Had a look on my face was like, yo, don't play with that dude because he looked like he'll straight hurt you.
Mhm.
Mhm.
But God does things through people.
Right.
Yeah.
He gave me the revelation of how many blessings have I blocked,
Mhm.
people that he sent my way, but because of the look that I carried and that
Yeah.
wall that I had up. And so I've been gravitating more to the
Yeah.
ambivert, and I'm happy
That
with
is so strong, Joe. I mean, we haven't really gotten into the meat of this conversation, but that's strong because I do believe that God works in relationships, and the enemy wants nothing more than for us to feel isolated and to isolate ourselves.
it. Yes.
Absolutely.
I think that, once I discovered what an ambivert was, it's like I too enjoy, I'm way more productive when I'm by myself, but I
Yes.
also know that socially I can engage, and then after a while I need to retreat just to replenish myself. So I can vacillate back and forth, but I can agree with what you're saying, like how
Mhm.
being by yourself or being shut down or coming across private can create dissonance in relationship, and we know God uses people. So yeah,
Absolutely. That's
I
so
can agree
true.
with that. All right, last question as we're getting to know the Richardsons. Coffee or tea?
He's gonna say tea.
And she's
And
gonna say coffee.
Okay. All right, how you like your tea?
Um, Honey and lemon.
Okay.
Mhm.
All
Yeah,
right. Any
just
particular brand you like?
just decaf.
Okay.
Mhm.
Just hit me
All
with the
right.
For
decaf.
mine, I make what's called an angel tea Shay,
Mhm.
and so there's no tea bags. It
Okay.
is it's an anti-inflammatory, so there's turmeric,
Mhm.
um, cinnamon. I do fresh ginger,
Mhm.
ginger root, cut that up in there, lemon, and then honey to taste.
Wow.
Yeah.
That
And it's
sounds good.
great. It really, really helps. Well, I had been diagnosed several years ago with asthma,
Mhm.
and I was allergic to asthma medicine. And so I needed something to help my bronchial and my breathing. And that was one of the things that really, really helped get me through until they figured out what I could take when
Yeah.
I needed it. So,
Yeah.
mhm.
Wow. Okay. I don't know where this is headed, but I'm loving what I'm hearing. I have a lady friend who is actually studying functional medicine, and I
Oh,
don't
wow
know
about
much
that.
about it, so I'm not even getting ready to try to set myself up by explaining it. But the little bit that I do know is that she was talking through about how certain food combinations and medicines that people take. So, like, you have your regular physician, and they're going based off the diet, off the descriptor of what you're feeling, because they're trying to
Mhm.
figure out how to prognose and all the things. And
Right.
then some of that medicine has the reaction to some of the foods that you eat that
Right.
can almost counteract one another. And
Exactly.
so the more that I'm leaning into my health, being more conscious about like food combinations and things of that nature, like I know I'm not supposed to have dairy, but I love Starbucks and they got this iced ginger bread chai tea latte that I'm drinking with oat milk. And I'm telling you, one day, Joe, one day I went and got one, and the Lord said, "You gonna learn today. You
Listen,
Mm.
gonna learn today to
come on.
leave that dairy
Come on
alone."
now.
And you
Leave it
learned, didn't
alone.
you?
But in all truthfulness, like just really slowing down, asking the questions, and
Mhm.
doing some of the research for yourself.
Right.
Because what I've discovered, like I think I shared this back in March of this year, where I went for a physical appointment, and I'm a woman of a certain age. I'm over 50 years old, and I have never had so many doctor's appointments that they sent me to, that I got to a point, Sherry, where they asked me to go to another doctor. And I said, hold up.
Mhm.
I'm not going to no more doctors. Give me a minute and
Right.
let me try to course correct what is happening. So everything was preventative, but it still felt like it sent me down this spiral where it's like
Absolutely.
cardiologist and endocrinologist, go get blood work, go have an echo, go see. I'm just like, what is happening? So I'm like, okay,
Mhm.
it comes with the age, but it was an awakening and also an awareness to this one temple that I've been given. And
It.
you both know that I'm in ministry full time, and
Mhm.
I'm so grateful that I get to be. So I'm just like, God, I want you to show me how to preserve my body, how to care for
Yes.
myself, how to change my palate to eat the things that and desire the things that are going to help me be healthy and strong. So,
Right.
I don't know what's happening. I'm near a hospital right now. I don't know if you guys can hear hear that ambulance riding through here. But okay, all right. So we're gonna switch gears again. And I crack
Okay.
myself up with this because I've never driven a 5 speed before, but I'm always talking about shifting gears. I don't know, like up, down. I'm not really sure how that works,
Yes.
but I want to move into the conversation that's a little bit more personal. And I do say share to the level of your comfort.
Mhm.
As I said to you prior to us jumping on, getting ready for 2025, people who are very intentional and focused on the things that they have set their hearts on, they're clear. They're not waiting for January 1 for that clock to strike. They're like, I'm walking in, I'm set on ready. And that's what this conversation is about tonight. And so I want to start off by asking both you and Joe, and you can answer this individually, which I know you're a married couple. You may have individual goals, but then you may have collective goals together. And so I just want to invite you to share however you feel led to. But the first question that I would like to know, our listeners would like to know, is what are one, two, three things that you are currently valuing right now?
Well, we always value each other. That is one thing we say. We prioritize one another.
Yes.
And whatever we do or don't do, we do it together.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So, we are very intentional about how we love on each other, how we making sure that that love bank stays filled.
Mhm.
And so we prioritize each other.
Yes, most
Mhm.
Hmm.
definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other thing? Two or three?
Right. We definitely have some some ambitions and some goals coming up.
Mhm.
We are growing our couples ministry.
Mhm.
And so I know for me, I know, babe, we talked about this several times. Um, Joe actually is my second marriage.
Mhm.
I was married previously, and I'm entering into this beautiful new relationship, and he's so silly, and
See, here's where I tell the listeners, you can watch this on YouTube or you can listen to it on Spotify and Apple, but I would encourage you to jump on over to the YouTube
that's right,
Yeah,
so you can
that's
see
right,
the facial expressions of the two
exactly. You
definitely.
couples.
can't hear that on Spotify. But I'm laughing because, we one of the things I always knew that I was called to was couples ministry or pouring into couples. And so when he and I got together and initially facilitating and that kind of thing, he was like, oh, I don't know if I'm called to that. I
Mhm.
said, oh, trust me, you're called to that. And
Mhm.
so as we work together, God is just opening doors for us to really, really be influential in
Mhm.
the lives of other couples, whether they are seriously dating, whether they're, engaged, whether they're married. He's just allowed the experiences that we've had to really be able to be a blessing to other people. And so that's one thing we take seriously as well, growing that individually, collectively, even families, blending families is not an easy thing, but we realize there are so many people out there who are doing that.
Yeah.
They're in a situation where, they had life happened, they had different experiences. Now they're in a relationship and they're blending that, and it is not an easy thing to do, but we connected, we talked, we communicated about
Everything.
everything, and we made sure that we were always on one accord and on the same page as we went forth with the decisions or things that we engaged in. And it has being able to learn from that and grow from that allows us to do what we do as it relates to helping other families.
Yeah, yeah, that's so good because I'm listening to what you value, and you both started off where you said you value one another.
Yes, yes.
And I'm making the connection to your valuing of one another, of how that well being filled overflows into your couple's ministry.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
how could you answer the call to
Right.
couples ministry if you weren't first tending to your own relationship. And I think that
Absolutely.
sometimes that's what people do. They get the cart before the horse, or they hear God call them to a thing, but they have not allowed him to process and or work through them in order for him to use the thing that he's actually calling them to.
That's
And
good.
that could be really, challenging, because you sense it, you know it, you feel it. I could say to you, I'm a single woman right now. Single meaning that I have people that I'm getting to know.
Mhm.
I'm collecting the data. I
Exactly.
Exactly.
have written down what is negotiable and what is non-negotiable. I
Mhm.
have never been married. I mean, I can go down the path and talk through, but this is not about me tonight. But definitely when I look at couples, whether in first marriages or, second marriages, blended family, I always like to glean from that process of even understanding what it took for them to get there. But when
Mhm.
you make the connection of saying, like, oh yeah, and I also feel called to couples ministry, then I have to go back and look at the fruit that they're
Right.
bearing, that
So,
says that
Exactly.
you have that to even minister to. I have a couple right now that you guys actually know. The last names are Marshalls and the Haydens, who I do glean from when it comes to certain aspects of their marriage.
yes.
Mhm.
That I glean from, that I know are married, but I don't glean from their marriage, but there's other aspects of their life that I do glean from. And
Right.
so
Mhm.
it's like an advisory board that I have
Mhm.
for Lashay Johnson. It's like, who can I trust to speak into my life about that? So I didn't know. So this is new information to me. I'm very excited to hear that you two are taking that step. And so I guess if I can just kind of push the conversation a little bit more, do you feel like, well, first of all, like, how long have you guys been married? And do you feel that the value of one another was always there, or did you have to work at that? And if you did, what did that look like?
We've been married for 6 years, and even though it's been 6 years since we said I do,
Mhm,
we say I do daily with
mhm,
how we love each other, how we
mhm,
love on each other, how I love, honor, respect her. And so I say I do each and every day. Um, One thing I know we have conversations is that we saw a lot of married couples, but not a lot of married couples that we wanted to emulate,
mhm,
which is
mhm,
Mhm.
what you just spoke about, that
Right.
you wanted to take things from, that you saw the good fruit,
mhm,
that people could sit back and watch and say, there's something special about that couple.
Mhm.
Do you see how he loves on her and how she loves on him, how they value each other, how they treat each other? And so that's how we live.
mhm,
What you see outside of the house is the way it go down in the house.
Mhm.
And so we're authentic, we're intentional, and we just go at it 120%, each and every day, because how we love on each other flows outside of the house.
yeah.
We all have jobs, we
Mhm.
have friendships,
Right.
but I make sure that each and every day when Sherry goes out of the house, her love bank is overflowing. So
Mhm,
regardless of what she goes into in her job
mhm,
or in a situation, or if she gets some bad news, she's in a good position.
Right.
But I always tell her, hold yourself together until you can get back to me. And if
mhm.
I have to, I'll come to you.
Mhm.
I love that. I love it. I
Um,
love that. And I'm going to push. I'm gonna keep pushing a little bit more, because what I'm hearing is, again, I'm gonna keep going back to, it's like valuing one another. We've got the couples ministry, and
Mhm.
I'm making sure that the love bank is overflowing. For those that may not understand what I get it, because I've been
Mhm.
around that language. Can you give some examples of how you ensure that that love bank is filled? Is it like a regular date night? Do you, like, what do you do to ensure that every day when you say I do, and you're also making sure each other's love bank is full? Like, what are some examples? What does that look like for you?
Right. And so you're right. The language, first and foremost, for those who may not be familiar with that, love, it's like a bank.
Mhm,
You make deposits and you make withdrawals. Ultimately, you want to make sure that your deposits are far greater than any withdrawal that you may have to make. And
mhm,
so in our relationship, we there are certain things we do every single day, Shay. Um, in the morning when Joe's going to work or I'm heading to work, when we get settled, we make sure we send a morning text message. Okay. And that's every single day. We'll find maybe a quote or a bitmoji or emoji or, something that represents how we feel. And then we just give our good morning, like send that person off and start that day off in a positive way. And
Mhm.
then touching bases throughout the day, just staying connected in those little small ways, because it's the little things. Everything does not have to be
Right.
grandeur and grandiose. So
Yeah.
little small things and the consistency of it that allows you to stay full and
Yeah.
connected.
I
Yeah.
agree. And for me, um, when we were dating, we talked about any and everything.
Everything.
Mhm.
Um, and what I said to Sherry is, listen, allow yourself, allow me to love you my way. And I
Mhm.
said, I'm sure you're gonna be happy.
Oh my gosh.
And I started explaining to her what that meant for me.
Mhm,
Mhm.
And what that really did is it gave her power,
Mhm.
because if ever did anything that was contrary to what I had said in relation to how I was going to love her, she had every right to call me out and challenge me on it.
Mhm.
mhm,
Mhm.
But I was intentional about letting her know. I was intentional about caring for her heart.
Yeah.
I was intentional about letting her know that God loves you and I'm going to love you as his daughter the best that I can.
Yeah.
There were things that I told her. Um, if I got home before her, as soon as I seen her car pull up, I would be at the door. I would open the door. I would greet her with a hug and a kiss. Those are
Mhm.
things that happen
right.
daily.
Yeah.
We send each other off the same way in the mornings. I send her a rose or roses every day
Every
through
day.
the text. But it's just ways of being creative and connecting and letting
Yeah.
the person know you're thinking about them, you're caring. And again, it just allows her love bank to just overflow.
I
And
love
I
it.
want to add to that too, Shay, because you talked about earlier, the data collection.
Mhm.
And we have to understand the importance of that process when
Mhm.
you are getting to know someone, when you begin, dating or whatever you want to call it, talking, whatever they call it these nowadays.
Just let's take a minute because I mean, listen,
Call it.
I don't know what they're calling it. I'm like, are you hanging out? Are
Yeah.
you getting to
Right.
know someone? And I think the reason why, share, we might struggle with using either the word like you are my friend or dating is because it does imply another level of intimacy for sure.
Hmm.
When you're just getting to know someone,
Right.
it's like you're an associate. But when it's as soon as I call you my friend, there's
Exactly.
something
Hmm.
that's added to that. And then if you say
Is.
that you're dating, I remember a young lady who is now married, and I watched her collect the data. Most beautiful thing that I've ever seen.
Mhm.
And she's in a vibrant marriage. They just had a baby not too long ago. She may be like maybe 3 or 4 years old. But I remember one, how well she was taking care of herself.
Mhm.
Two, she and the gentlemen that she was hanging out with, they were all very clear. Like they didn't necessarily know each other, but there wasn't a secret that she was having a dinner here or having a dinner here or going
Right.
bowling here or being invited to a party here. But it wasn't until she used this language and she said the one guy who she's now married to, he said to her, he said, I realize that you are X, Y, and Z, and I want you to know that I'm ready to be exclusive. And I was just like, baby, talk to me. Cause
Mhm.
that cleared it up. You know what I'm saying? It's like
Right.
I want to be exclusive. So now
Very
what
clear.
does that look like and what does that mean? And I just
Mhm.
don't think that in our culture, and I don't know what, and maybe you'll get a chance to talk about it before we get off because it's already 8:54. Um, what your couples ministry provides to those that are either, dating, engaged, or are already married or renewing their vows. Because I thought that was so good that she was so clear and was so open. But at the same time, when I think of our culture, I just don't think that we do that well. It's like you meet someone and it's almost like you clobber them over the head. It's like, you my boyfriend, you my girlfriend. I'm just like, I don't even know you.
Don't know you. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because we don't. We gather all of this information when we're buying a house, when we're buying a car, when we're going to college or, starting a job. And then we get in relationships and it's like we don't collect a thing. And one thing that worked for Joe and I, we did a question of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And every day we just had a random question that either one of us thought about. But it was anything and everything from finances to religion and um politics, education, child rearing, discipline, like we relationships with people of the opposite sex and how do you handle that? We talked about things ahead of time
Yeah.
before they became an issue. So we didn't have to deal with a lot of things reactively
Mm-hmm.
because we had proactively had conversations. And in those conversations, one of the things that I learned about Joe was the importance of acknowledgement.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He That was important to him. And
Mm-hmm.
so the way I keep him full is I acknowledge,
Yeah.
when he comes to just same thing like he said, if I'm home before him and he comes through that door, I'm there.
Yeah.
Hey, and I'm stopping what I'm doing because I want him to know I am prioritizing you. You are important to me, and I'm going to stop what I'm doing to
Yeah.
recognize and acknowledge you because you mean that much to me. And that was important to him. That's, that and me cooking because that food is his love language. And so, but you
Come
learn it
on.
now.
Look, Joe, she beautiful and she can cook. All
What?
right.
Unique blessing. Mm.
And now I'm starting to get up baking. God, I was never a baker, but Shay, I got this thing in me now where I'm like, oh,
Well, listen, I have a guy who said to me, because I was joking about, I was like, listen, I don't cook. I don't
Mhm.
want to cook. I am not interested in cooking. I actually gave a whole list. I was like, I want this, 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 and in that order. And he just bust out laughing. And what he said to me was, he said, you just haven't met the right man that makes you want to get back in the kitchen.
Mm,
So, excuse me.
okay.
Hey,
Who
hey,
who all over there?
hey,
Who is all over there? I love
hey.
that. I love
Mm.
it. Now listen, we're talking about, you being intentional, being you acknowledging, being ready, filling the love tank. We know that every day is not a bed of roses. And so if you could just maybe give the listener, myself, an example of like how do you all navigate a difference of opinion or what appears to be a conflict or challenge. How do you address that and still maintain the feeling of the love? Because you mentioned the bank is just like a bank. You make
Mhm.
deposits and you make withdrawals, and I would imagine that the withdrawal could be a part of just navigating through what could be difficult times for you.
Mhm.
Well, Shay, many people miss out on the real importance of open and honest communication. Um, there's such a lack there. And when you do that, it allows one another, it gives the other person information, which allows them to then ask questions so that if you do have a difference of opinion, you can talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
But it also teaches you how to communicate,
Mm-hmm.
what language to use. So we use positive language, when we talk to one another. And so for us, because if you come from a situation where a spouse or you were dating someone and they went 0 to 100 and you found yourself in shutdown mode,
Mm-hmm.
already your mind is thinking that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so you have to now undertake the information and say, okay, I know where that person was in that season.
Mm-hmm.
Let me care for them in a way that is loving. Let me care for them in a way that they know that they are valued and their voice is valued.
Yeah.
And so that's how, we deal with stuff. And we the way you live your life, you have a choice. We will ourselves every day to have great days. Don't
Mm-hmm.
mean things are going to be perfect. Don't mean that things on the job are not going to, don't mean the kids not going to aggravate you. But
Mm-hmm.
we will ourselves because we know the way we love on each other, the way we fill each other up, that anything else is a small matter.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we also take the time, like, if there are situations where either one of us is feeling emotional, it's okay for us to say, you know what? Let's take a step back from this for a moment.
Mhm.
But we set a time and we say, okay, we're going to talk about this in half an hour, or we're going to talk about this, in a little while. We make sure that we establish that we're gonna take this little time out for a moment just so we can process, because our whole thing is we want to always make sure that when we're conversing with one another, that the words that we say are not damaging.
Right.
And so a lot of times that little brief moment allows us to get our thoughts together, allows us to manage the emotion. And one thing, and Joe really, really, he has just made me be very intentional about realizing what is the root?
Mhm.
What is the true reason I am reacting or responding in this way? So
Mhm.
as we're processing that, it allows us to come back to the table and have a positive conversation. Have a conversation that is void of those emotions that can cause you to kind of act out and hurt one another, or say
Sure.
something that you can't take back.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
time out is all right. It's okay to just step away for a moment.
Mhm.
Just make sure you come back together and
Yeah,
have
for
that
sure.
conversation.
And one thing else I would add, Lashay, is I told Sherry, again, when you get information, you process it and then you navigate to, get to the conclusion you want. And one of the things that I told Sherry was that the same level that I start a conversation with her at is
Mhm.
the same way I'm going to end it.
Yeah.
So you're not going to catch, I'm not that dude that's going to go 0 to 100 because I don't agree with you. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And so
Uh,
you really have to take those small things and just be intentional about being that example. Like, it's funny because early on, there was a text or two that I got from Sherry that said, "I love you more." And I literally told her,
You
"You
sure
can't
did.
outlove me. It
That's what
will
I
never
said.
happen."
Hmm.
And I wasn't saying that negatively.
no, right.
Negatively, I was saying that, like, as the man, you will never outlove me,
Yeah.
because what makes her happy in the way that I love her,
Yeah.
I'm still not satisfied. I'm always pursuing
I love it.
that type of love because I'm always pursuing her, even though I'm still married to her.
I
Still
love it.
always pursuing her.
I love it. Oh God, we don't have enough time. Here we go, Sherry. Y'all got to come back. I would almost love to have. There's another couple that. Well, anyway, let me keep going. Yeah, no, I'm like grinning like a Cheshire cat because I love love and I love seeing Black couples love one another so well. And you can see it.
Mm.
I don't feel the pretense. And I know you all intimately, so I know that road to where you are was
Yeah.
not something that did not come with a whole lot of.
Hmm.
And to watch the two of you love each other so well, love your family well, lead well in the community, lead well in your church. It just you can feel the overflow in your lives. And so we started this conversation, talking about 2025, and you talked about how you're very intentional in caring and loving for one another. And you've given us some examples, and talked about how you are actually putting that into practice.
Hmm.
I think before we go, I'd like to hear a little bit about what you're doing to move the needle or to move closer to whatever that next thing is with your couple's ministry, because I'm going to ask you this question now and I'll ask it again. Like, I want to know, how can people find you all? How can they learn more about your ministry and what you guys are doing for couples? So tell us a little bit about, like, what's your plan for 2025 when it comes to this couples ministry?
I would say, again, one of the best examples is the fruit that you display, that people see, that people are attracted to, that people want to say, "Wow, there's something about that couple that's different,"
Mm-hmm.
and I want to take some of that. I don't want to be a clone, but I want to take those good things and I
Hmm.
want to put them into our marriage. So for us, it's just being that example. It is it's funny because again, when you go back to the introvert thing, I'm so glad that God has transformed me from that
Mhm.
because I'll have guys come up to me now and they're like, man, you look like you really love your wife. And you watch how you love on her. And then they have a question. And so it basically starts from that. It starts from just being an example. And then
Mhm.
people just watch it and then they'll come up to you and they'll start asking you questions. And we always say, listen, if we're going to do this, that
Mhm.
if you're dating, she needs to be on board. And if you're married, she needs to be on board,
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
with it. So,
So
um,
if I hear you correctly, you're just living it out. You're like a walking epistle. You guys are just saying
Okay.
like, here's our marriage. We're open to people gleaning from it. I think about this older couple that I often glean from as well. And I can see like they don't have a formal kind of like, hey, here's the marriage ministry, but yet they are doing marriage ministry because I see women and men always approaching them and asking questions and gleaning from them in ways. So that's what I think. I think that's what I'm hearing. Is that
That is what
correct?
you're hearing.
Okay.
yes,
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we're on social media. Dr. She Rich is my Dr. She Rich 4 is everywhere.
Mhm.
And that's how a lot of people know me now.
Okay.
Dr. She Rich. And but a lot of times Joe just he's just outreach. You
Yeah.
know, he sees different guys he's introducing himself to, and he'll like, babe, so and so wanted to know, can we go out to dinner or can we have a conversation? And I'm like, yes, most definitely. And
Yeah.
so it's making yourself available to people,
right,
um, so that they can have access.
Yeah.
And that's really, really what it is.
yeah,
Now, do you guys have like your couple that you glean from?
We do well, first and foremost, the ministry that we're a part of. You
Sure.
know, I We're so in awe because we've been in different ministries. This is not our first church.
right,
Hmm.
And but this one is the first one that's been intentional about couples.
mhm,
Yeah.
And really our pastors have a heart for couples.
Yeah.
And so, as much as we can get from that, we do.
yes,
But
Hmm.
then there are just different people who we watch as well, who are a part of the church,
Yeah.
who we just
we
love being
just love them.
around, right?
Right.
We just love
Yeah.
being around, and so we, can I throw names out?
Go right ahead. Yeah. Go right ahead.
I love my mom and Pop Brock.
Yes,
Brock.
yes,
Love
That's
them.
actually who I was referring to.
yes,
Yeah.
Love
most
them.
definitely.
Uh-huh.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. The
Oh,
real deal.
they
And
they
their reach,
are.
is amazing,
Yeah.
within
Mhm.
the church. That like their
Yes.
reach is amazing,
Yes,
Yes.
it is.
and
Yep.
so we definitely look
Mhm.
at
They
them.
walk in they walk in a way, um, yeah, God just uses them 100%.
Amazing.
I would
Mhm.
definitely agree for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But she
Wow.
she she'll sit there and she'll tell you, "Are you taking care of home, baby?"
Yeah. She grabs me up all the time. She told me, Joe, she told me one time, she said, "I see you smiling a little bit.
Uh-huh.
Your eyes are looking a little softer." I said,
Mhm.
"Okay." I said, "Okay,
Look,
mother."
see right through you.
Yeah, she listened. She calls it the way she sees it. And, just this
She
past week,
does.
she and I had a little bit of a check-in, and I said, "I really appreciate you praying for me,
Mhm.
um, and also speaking such sound
Mm,
wisdom with
yes,
doctrine, right? Connecting it together. Just very strong and solid couple for
Yes.
sure." So yeah, I would have to agree.
Beautiful.
Well, listen, it's a little later than we expected, and I
That's
feel
all
like we
right.
just really scratched the surface. I know you guys have some other things that are coming up. We won't touch that this time. But definitely just for the listener to hear the value of being intentional in their relationships, being intentional with their word choice. It almost makes me think about, I think it's Gary Chapman who wrote the book, The Five Love Languages.
Yes.
And, even the importance in understanding that, because I could remember a woman sharing one time I was in this group where she was like, I ran my husband's bath water every night, but acts of service was not his love language. And
Hmm.
so taking the time to really
Oh,
understand your
yes.
partner in that way. And Joe, you almost made me start crying, and I ain't about to
No,
start crying.
no,
I love the way you acknowledge Sherry's previous experiences and ensuring that this ain't what that is. You
right,
understand what I'm saying?
right.
Oh, yeah.
And, Sherry, you communicating, because that was, even though you guys didn't mention that as something you value, it is very clear that communication is a
Absolutely.
value of yours.
Very
Hmm.
There's
important.
no way that you can be intentional with loving one another. There's no
Right.
way that you can be available to serve others if you don't have that. And so I hear God obviously is the foundation of your marriage, of your friendship, which is
Mhm.
equally
Oh
beautiful.
my goodness, so important.
Like
Best friend,
equally
So
beautiful.
important.
best
Yes,
friend,
best
best
Like
friend.
friend,
I hear that you guys actually you're friends. So
best
I
Hmm.
friends.
love that.
Yes.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I do. Oh man, I wish we could go a little bit longer, but
Well,
Sherry,
can
I
I
do
can I
have
say one thing real
no,
quick?
please go right ahead.
Listen, you need to learn how to cook because some beautiful things can happen in the kitchen. That's all I'm gonna say.
Listen, Joe, it's not that I don't like to cook. If I could be really transparent, just give me a moment. I'm gonna read a text. Okay, we're totally going off script, guys. So
It's all
just
right. Let's
listen.
go. Let's
I,
go.
I sent this text message to a friend not too long ago, and I don't even remember how it was prompted. I think I made mention of something about I don't know if I mentioned that I didn't want to cook or something like that, but oh no, I think I said something about me wanting a personal chef. And so I no 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 no. I'm sorry. Let me go back. Let me go back. I asked a question about whether they liked to cook and could they cook, right? And
Hmm.
their response was like, "Yes, and I do." And they like breakfast. And so they asked me the question about, me cooking, and I was just like, "Listen, I would like a driver, a personal chef, a housekeeper, a trainer, a stylist, a great lover who
Hmm.
enjoys serving as a personal assistant in that order." And they just kind of responded and they laughed. But again, like I know how to cook. I'm
Hmm.
just in a season where I don't want to cook. And that's why I'm saying another friend said to me, you haven't met a man that makes you want to get back into the
Hmm.
kitchen. And I just thought, I was like, what you want me to cook for you?
Hey, look,
It just came out so strong. It was
Yeah.
just like, oh my God. Yeah. So I definitely enjoy serving in that way. But yeah, I'm a newbie. I'm fresh into the water right now. And so I'm smiling because I see it. And sometimes people can be jealous of it because they want it.
Hmm.
I'm not jealous at all. It just makes me want what I
Right.
see all the
Motivator.
more. And so you guys are such a blessing. Very, very, very grateful that you took, and I know your schedules, that you took this time to just sit down and talk. And
my
I just believe
pleasure.
that
Absolutely.
there is one
Yes.
person that's out there that will hear this and understand, like, one, hey, this is not my first marriage. Two, blending a family together. Three, how are we intentional? Four, how do we greet and acknowledge? I mean, you guys went nugget after nugget after nugget. I don't know if you noticed that my head was going down because
Uh-huh. That's all
I'm
right.
writing. I got my pen.
Yes.
I'm writing and I'm taking notes because again, I never talk to anyone that I don't want to talk to,
Mhm.
and I don't say that as being, a snob or whatever, but I do follow the promptings of God in the sense of like who who do I need to hear from? And I said this very early on, Joe, when Sherry and when she was on the podcast a couple months back, I was like, I really feel like you and Joe need to come on and just kind of minister. And that's exactly what you all did. And I can feel it. Like I feel excited for whatever is next for the two of you. Again, we're not going to go there, but you're scratching the surface of what God is
Mhm.
going to
That's
do,
believe that.
whether you're in the season of retirement and relocating and all the things. Like God is just starting to readjust and realign the purpose of your ministry, because I don't think that he brought the two of you together for the sake of bringing the
Right.
two of you together. I think you both will add so much value to the kingdom of God that the enemy's shaking somewhere. Because
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
when you get that household strong,
Oh,
and Joe, your
Lord.
countenance, my God, today, like, you
Mm,
are a man's man, and not in the sense of like roar, but you just move in a way that you are clear that God is with you, and that
mhm.
he's for you, and that he's guiding everything that you're doing and
Everything.
saying. And
Yes,
Sherry,
ma'am.
you and I have known each other since, I don't even want to tell nobody how long.
Yes.
But it's been a minute.
Many, 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 many decades.
Many decades. So even to see us in this moment, like, I'm just really overjoyed. It
Yes.
just,
Mhm.
you are a couple that I do speak of, whether you know it or not, because I'm always in the background watching, and I can see it. I think recently you guys had an opportunity to minister to over, I don't know, 100 some couples. Just was that maybe a month or so ago,
Yes.
Yes.
and
We
whatever, because
loved
I
it.
wasn't in the room,
Mhm.
whatever, I wasn't in the room, but
Mhm.
whatever happened in that room, the couples came out and they were lingering. They were talking, they were connecting. I was like, there they go again, them doggone Richardsons. They
That's
don't went
right.
in, they don't went in and dropped all the jewels that's like fanning the flame of love
Yeah,
and marriage, and
that's it.
being intentional. And I think that's why when I asked that question, you guys were just right out the door. You were so clear about,
Mhm.
like, this is what we're focusing on. And so as you walk into 2025, you just take it to a whole nother level,
Right.
in knowing how God wants to use that for you all in that season. So I just want to
Thank you,
thank you guys
Shay.
again.
Thank
Is
you.
there anything that you wished we had talked about that you feel that you want to share? Because we have a few more minutes, and I'm happy to keep this recording going.
One thing that I would say that is very, very, very important is that through your conversations, talk about the importance of family history
Mm-hmm.
because we react, we make choices out of a lot of things that we were exposed to, the
Mhm.
way we were raised,
Right.
and the importance of knowing the other person's family history is very, very important.
Yes.
Like when we talk to couples, we say, you're not just marrying her, you're marrying her and her family history.
Mhm.
Yes.
And
Wow.
so it's very important that you tap into that
Right.
Mhm.
because there's some cheat sheet information in there that can help you to love her better if you just listen.
Mhm.
And once you listen, then you have to apply some knowledge and some wisdom to the information you received.
Yeah.
That's good.
That is so good. And
Mhm.
that just, I mean, that seals the deal for me, because I was going to ask a selfish question of like, what would you both offer to me as I'm, in the dating world of, collecting the data. And I think
Mhm.
you just nailed it without
That's
even
it.
knowing. So I know that that is God, because I want to get this right.
Mhm.
Um, quite honestly, Sherry, I already know that God's not going to allow me not to get it right, because there's so much
That's
Oh,
right.
pressure
that's so
on
true.
what He wants to do in and through my life. That
Mhm.
whoever it is that He brings and decides to say that we're bringing the two of us together, like, it's God first. Like, I need to
Yes.
know that there's somebody that can walk alongside me,
Mhm.
in my call that I still
Mhm.
run from time and time again. But God is just so faithful. And I think that was really powerful, Joe. Whether you know it or not, God just used you, because that is very important. And
Mhm.
Yes.
believe it or not, one of the people that I'm getting to know, they have been beyond forthright with more than I could have expected, but
Mhm.
it is refreshing. And so maybe about a week ago, I posted a clip. And anyone who's in social media, they only allow you like 60, 90 seconds. I couldn't even get it all out. So I ended up doing 3 posts, because
Oh,
I was
wow.
still processing
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
that conversation that I had with that man was so strong,
Mhm.
it was so clear. It was so thoughtful. It was very loving. And I can sense his groundedness in all of what he shared, that he was like, I'm not backing off of not telling you all of this because I want you to know. And it
Yes.
made me share. It made, oh God, I want to cry
Yes.
because
Ooh,
I'm still taking
thank
it in,
God.
Joe. Because
Right.
this one situation just dropped out of the sky. So it's just
Mhm.
like, but it made me want to share more in that way, and the kind of connection that is taking place between the two of us. It is because those kinds of conversations are
Mm,
being had, and Joe, he is listening to me,
so
Wonderful.
and
important.
I can tell
So
that
important.
he is listening and he is observing me in a way that I said to a young lady, I said, this can't be happening in this way.
Yes,
Oh,
it
Sherry,
yes,
can.
it can.
hold up. I said, this can't be happening in the, I mean, everything that Joe has said and everything you have said, Sherry, this it is like I hear God, I hear
Mm,
him. And I said to this person, I was like, it feels like he's being coached. It feels like he's reading a book. And then they said, who knows you best, Shay? And immediately I said, God. She said, you ever thought that he's the one who's actually talking him through this?
Mhm.
Because, and then the one thing, Joe, Joe, he pulled me on this one. He said the thing that he's most looking forward to, if we are to move forward in getting to know each other beyond the getting to know each other, is praying together. I said,
Mhm.
I, I'll be.
right.
Mhm.
That's it.
So you
Mm.
guys keep me in prayer because I
Oh,
don't
Oh,
most
I,
definitely.
definitely.
I can I can get ahead of myself, and but I think that response of that family history, Joe,
Oh,
It's real
yes.
that
It
important.
was
is
solid.
important.
That
It
was
is
so
important.
solid. So solid.
Mhm.
So solid. Well, listen, y'all, I love you all so very
We
much.
love
Thank
you
you
Love
right
you
so
too.
back.
much, so much for slowing down. Thank you for your hearts. Thank
Mhm.
you for your honesty. And again, the reason that I do this podcast is because if there's just one person that life gets touched in a way
Mhm.
that they can live on the level that God has already, not getting ready, but already
Right.
determined is theirs to have, then I say to God be the glory. So thank you so much for joining me. For
Thank
those of
you.
you who are around, I will make sure that I put all the details of how to stay connected with the Richardsons. I do believe that there's so much more that they have to offer. So thanks again. I appreciate you guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.